Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You look for us, you can find us. You can also find us at my website, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce three of my actual favorite actors and performers in the Asheville area. And they are Mike Yao, Daniel Henry, and Madison Garris. And Mike knows the bit, so does Garris and Madison, but you waved to all your fans and friends already. I should mention to you that these three I've seen in a whole bunch of different shows in the Asheville area. And rather than me make up their backgrounds, I'll kind of just start in no particular order and ask Mike if you can kind of give your background in theater and whatnot, and keep it to, I guess, 10 minutes or less?
I'll keep it to hour and a half.
Okay, that's great.
So I've probably mentioned some of this before, but yeah, so I've been acting professionally for about 15, 16 years. And before that, amateurly and on the side and stuff from the Atlanta area. Then I moved up here to Asheville, to the Asheville area about 8.5 years ago, and been doing lots of different things up here. So now I'm starting to direct a little bit more as well as performing. So I'm directing and performing and producing in this show, The 39 Steps. And I've worked with Madison on several occasions, and first time I'm working with Daniel.
I was going to ask you too, is this the first time you ever acted and directed in the same thing, same play?
I did It's a Wonderful Life last
Right.
Christmas. That was I directed and performed in. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Exactly. And Daniel, same thing too. A little bit about your background.
I got started in theater my senior year of high school and decided to go to college for it. Went to Mars Hill. After graduating from there, stuck around in Asheville after a brief stint in Charlotte, and have just been doing shows around here. And I've dipped my toe into the film and television realm as well, and starting to do more with that.
And the question I often ask, I don't think I've ever asked you, but do you remember the very first role you were in?
Oh my gosh. The very first role I was in, it was I think it was Farmer Zuckerman in Charlotte's Web.
Okay, how old were you then?
17.
Oh, so you didn't, that's the very first time you started acting at 17?
Yep.
Okay, kind of interesting. Because I have this idea I've shared with Mike and others, but as a fundraiser, either for the Black Mountain Center or someplace else, I thought it'd be fun if everybody did their first role. In other words, like you mentioned your first role. Do you have is there a videotape of that, or is there a CD of that anywhere?
Probably. I'd probably have to contact my high school.
But wouldn't that be cool if you could recreate your first role?
That'd be wild.
Didn't have to do the whole thing, either for Sod or Black Mountain, somebody do their first role. So you've been acting ever since, and again, compliment to both of you and Madison as well, that I've seen you in just a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know if I've seen you in everything, but you've certainly kept busy over the last couple of years, doing a lot of different stuff, and love your work. And Madison, the same question. How'd you get into performing?
So I started with dinner theater, actually. I started professionally at 8 years old and started doing musical theater. So I've been at it for a while. Most recent roles, of course, It's a Wonderful Life, which we did last year. Yes, last year. And most recently, Southern Appalachian Christmas at SARD. I was the lead role a month ago in that show. And I'm also a voiceover artist, and I've done several film projects. You can see a film that I'm in a lead over on, I think it's still on Amazon Prime, but I'm in a movie, 2 web series. One of the web series me and Mike are both in, which is available on YouTube. So I've done it all.
And the film you mentioned, what was that film?
It's called The Rush Chairman. It's basically a combination of the fraternity movie, Animal House, I think it's called. It's a Southern version of that.
Oh,
cool. I've yet to watch it. Now I want to watch it.
Okay. And do you have a preference, Madison, in terms of acting on stage or in film?
You know, I think theater, that's always going to have a place in my heart because I started off as a singer and then got into acting with musical theater and with the dinner theater. So I think I just have just a slight preference for theater, but I do love film, and I'm in love with voiceover right now as well. So it's hard to choose. I love them all.
Do you remember your first role too, as an 8-year-old?
I mean, besides being a youth performer over at the dinner theater, I'm sure I had a few ensemble roles before that. I can't remember exactly what shows. I know my first lead role was Annie and Annie.
Okay. And what you mentioned the dinner theater. What dinner theater was that?
It was Carolina Nights Dinner Theater. It was over in Maggie Valley. It no longer exists, unfortunately.
Yeah, what a shame, you know, that'd be a cool thing to have. And so, Mike, since you mentioned it, we have the three of you are involved in upcoming show. And Mike, why don't you just mention the name of that show and where it's going to be and the date, all that good stuff.
So it's called The 39 Steps, and here's the script, by the way. So it's zany. So it's based on a Hitchcockian Alfred Hitchcock film from 1935. It was actually the first spy thriller, so it was before James Bond and all of that stuff by a couple of decades. And it's based on a novel from 1915 called The 39 Steps. So basically, if you've seen the movie, it's this spy thriller. It's a film noir sort of thing. But our version is 4 actors playing all these different crazy characters. It's a humorous version. Now, there are some dramatic moments in it, and there's some romantic and touching moments, but overall, it's a little silly. And it's basically a trunk-based show, a trunk-based traveling show that you would see 4 actors, particularly in Britain, traveling around with their trunk of costumes, and they just bust out all these different characters, and a bunch of zaniness and craziness happens. But
Now, before you started to direct it, had you ever seen the movie?
yeah, so you probably remember, Blaine, I actually performed this at Parkway Playhouse
Oh, right.
5
Okay,
years
that's
ago.
right. Yeah.
With Strother was the other clown, and Jake, I forgot his last name, and Myra McCory was in it. Anyway, so I didn't watch the movie until after that, which was kind of dumb. And well, actually, I guess it wasn't. I don't think it really mattered, but so I did manage to watch it a couple times before producing and directing this version. It was kind of neat to see the serious version and then our silly scenes that are being reconstructed in the plate script.
And the same question to, I guess I'll ask Daniel and Madison. Have you ever seen the film, Daniel?
No, I didn't know it existed until Mike contacted me about the show.
Okay, cool. And again, I don't know if it's not easy to find, but if you can, definitely see it. It's a good film, but it's not like the show you're in. Madison,
Oh,
have you ever seen the film?
I've never seen the film, but I did see it performed over at Hart Theater.
Okay, Hart did it as well. So it's just a kind of a crazy thing. And I'll put you on the spot. Maybe I'll ask Daniel this question. For the folks who haven't seen the film yet, can you give kind of like a Reader's Digest version of what it's all about?
This for Daniel?
Yeah.
Who's that for?
That's for you, Daniel.
Oh, it's for me. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, Reader's Digest version of the 39 Steps. There's this fellow gentleman who is in a slump, and he gets involved in some crazy spy antics where there's some romance, some fear, some action, and just a whole bunch of stuff, and goes on this crazy journey across England and Scotland. And that's basically the Reader's Digest version.
And you play in this, what's your role?
I am Richard Hannay. He's the man who gets roped into everything.
Okay. So you're kind of the straight guy in this?
Yeah.
And what's interesting about your role, I guess, is so out of the 4 people in the show, you're the only one playing just one role. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so, Madison, your role in this is what?
I play Annabella, Margaret, and Pamela. So I have 3 roles, and each one with a different accent. So I'm playing a German, girl from Scotland and a girl from Britain. So,
Well, why don't you give us a real quick snippet of it? That's cool. You're doing 3 accents. Have you ever done other accents before?
no, actually. I mean, I've done an accents for things like video games and voice acting stuff, but I don't think I've ever done an accent for theater. I don't think I've even done a British accent for theater. So
Well, just give us a little British accent.
oh, well, that's the most easiest one to do. I think everyone can fall into that one.
But is that tough? And we'll turn to Mike in a second, but with Madison, just I give you such credit to play like not 1 role, 3 roles. Is that tough playing the different roles like that?
I don't think so, because I have it a little bit easier than the clowns. The clowns have to switch roles within a second. My character, she usually gets some time to be on stage and be present before I switch to another character. So it's just treating it as 3 different people, 3 different times. So it's not too challenging. It's more fun than challenging.
Have you done that before? Played more than 1
No.
role?
I don't believe so. I think this is
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I mean, I don't count ensemble roles.
Right,
I mean,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
but yeah, besides ensemble, no.
And Mike, then we'll turn to you because this is the classic part. You have how many roles in this one?
Oh, 30 to 40 to 50, somewhere in there. Some of them are really small, just bit parts, but they're very quick.
Now, is that the most you've ever played?
Probably, yeah.
Because you've
I
done
think,
a couple
yeah,
of
I
things,
think so.
right?
It's a
You've
lot
done
of
a
quick
couple,
changes and
right?
stuff.
You've done a couple of things with more than 1 role, right? I've seen you in a bunch of things where you're doing more than 1 role at a
Yeah.
time.
So when I was younger and arguably more attractive, so I would get more lead roles, right? So I would be the Daniel Henry here, and as I get older, I do more character roles. Honestly, I prefer the character acting over the anyway. I think that's my forte, is like popping in out of character, different accents and weird stuff like that. But and I think even when I played leads when I was younger, I always kind of almost did them like character roles in a way anyway. And so yeah, and so when I direct and coach acting, I always kind of remind the actors to do that. It's like, just because you're the straight man or straight woman doesn't mean you can't put a little character twist on there to
Well,
make it more interesting.
Agreed.
We should also give a shout out, I guess, to somebody else involved in the production, because she's really going to be working hard in this one. And that's a woman by the name of Karen Yao is doing what in this production? Do you know
Never
her?
heard of her, so.
No. But just and what's Karen's role in this, Mike?
So Karen is my stage manager and assistant director. So when I'm up on stage, she's kind of my eyes to go, hey, that was terrible. Make a new choice there, Mike, or whatever. So,
But how about with the shift in costumes, or and moving back and forth? Who's helping on that?
we're just all doing it together. So we're all. That's why I was mentioning it being almost like a traveling trunk show. So the actors are the state. We're doing all of it.
Well, that's the thing I remember. I think with Strother, I recall too that just shifting so many times. Like, how many costume changes are there? Same thing too. A lot of costume changes.
Yeah, about 20 or so. Yeah.
Is anybody helping backstage?
It's just us 4. It's
Okay,
just us 4,
and
yeah.
Karen
helps us with the door one time. That's about it from her tech booth.
and Mike. In terms of what you're doing, you mentioned you're getting into directing. Do you have a preference now as to acting or directing?
I still think I slightly prefer performing or acting, but only slightly. Like, I'm really starting to dig directing more now, just kind of making some really cool choices and visions and stuff like that, and kind of lending my experience to. And I think it helps too. I think I've become a slightly better actor from directing and vice versa. I guess one feeds the other.
Well, I don't know if you've shared this with Daniel or Madison, but the reality also, Daniel and Madison, is that when I ask an actor who's become a director, oftentimes they'll say directing, and the reason being is they don't have to memorize the lines that way. So Mike's case is different. But I know, Daniel, I think you've told me, right, too, you're starting to get into some directing as well.
I have done a bit of directing. Yeah, I've dabbled. And I enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah. Do you see yourself doing more directing in the future?
I would like to, yeah, yeah. I've got some things in the works right now.
Okay.
Can't say much more than that.
Okay. Well, what stays here on Blaine's World just said here stays here, so don't worry about that. And Madison, same question. Have you ever done any directing yet?
I haven't. I've only done a little bit of choreography and being dance captain and Hunchback. But other than choreography, I don't think I've ever. Yeah, I've never really given it much thought. It's definitely something that I would love to explore at some point down the line.
Okay. And so let's talk again back to this particular show. So in terms of preparing for it, like how long have you been in rehearsals? Mike, I'll ask you, then I'll turn to
We started last night, so we
no.
no, it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks, going on 2 weeks.
Okay. So not a long period of time, for a pretty involved show.
No, I like to do, and I think my actors below me will agree, or beneath, well, not, but on the screen. Daniel and Madison and Tate will agree. I like doing what I can consider a professional schedule where you just get it all knocked out in 2.5 to 3 weeks and don't drag it out. And yeah, just when you're working with professional actors, it's just they're a lot more, they're quicker with just picking up stuff and just knowing what to anticipate. So I think everybody will agree. We just like to just knock it out.
And you mentioned another name. Why don't you give a shout out to him? Tate is another performer in this.
Yes, sir. Tate Albert is the fourth cast member. He's my other clown. So basically, there's clown one, which is him, and that's plays a bunch of different roles. A couple of major roles, but mostly they're little minor roles. And I'm clown number two, one or two major roles, well, sort of major, and then everything else is minor. And of course, Daniel's the lead. Richard Hannay is technically the lead, and then Madison's three femme fatale type roles.
And Daniel certainly has experience of doing a lot of work at SOT, I know, and Mars Hill. And one of the things that Mike just mentioned, which I think is cool, is that I guess you're used to very short rehearsal schedules. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I've had my fair share of short rehearsal schedules, but the majority of things that I've done in Asheville have had a longer rehearsal schedule, which can be good and I don't know. It helps you discover more
double-edged
things.
sword. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because SOT, I know they would just turn things around sometimes a week or two. It's pretty tough, but it's very intense, I guess, week or two. So that's sort of a little bit like this. You have a pretty tight schedule. Like how often are you in rehearsals on this?
We rehearse about 4 times a week. So,
Okay.
and then once we get into TAC week, of course, it'll be pretty much every day until we open.
And how long are the rehearsals?
So they're just 3 hours. I do 7 to 10. I'm not one of these, this is a little pet peeve of mine, like schedule for 6:30, people wander in, you might start at 6:45. So I think that's disrespectful to people's time. So I do a fairly tight, it's just 3 hours. We take a 8 to 10 minute break and we're working the rest of the time. And we're having a good time, but we're working pretty hard. So,
And Madison, in terms of the script on this, when did you get the script for this?
Oh, was that a question?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
When did we get the? I think we got it during Southern Appalachian Christmas.
Southern Appalachian Christmas. I think I sneaked it in one rehearsal.
A few weeks before we started.
Yeah, it's about a month ago, right?
A month ago? Yeah.
3 weeks, maybe.
So
3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think.
Well, the question I ask you then, and so you were done with Southern Appalachian Christmas. Have you ever done any shows where you're working on one show in rehearsals for another, and then another in the background? Have you ever had to do multiple things at one time?
Goodness, I'm sure I've had to at some point. I mean, I can't think of anything at the top of my head. I've been very fortunate with my schedule that it has not happened very often where I've had to juggle 2 shows.
Which is cool because I know I'll ask Daniel in a second, but I've known some people have had to juggle 3, which is just blows my mind. Daniel, have you ever had to do that?
Yes, I've actually had to do 3, like you said, where I've been performing one in rehearsals for another, and then starting to learn lines for another down the road.
Is that tough for you?
It was the first, because I've done that a few times now. It was difficult the first time, but I've gotten used to it now. Not necessarily that it's a good thing, because taking breaks is a good thing as well. Um, so I'm starting to not do that as often now.
It's just the most incredible thing. And then we'll turn to Mike, who's a master of it. But to, like as Madison said, to be kind of involved in 3 plays at one time, rehearsals in the show itself, and then starting to think about another one. And then Mike, on top of that, and you've done that right a bunch of times, I assume. And
Yeah.
on top of that, to then have multiple characters in the plays,
Yeah.
does it ever get confusing?
No, it's funny, Blaine. Like a lot of people, a lot of non-actors will ask, A, how do you memorize all those lines, right? And B, how do you not say the wrong line in the wrong show? But I don't know. I feel like that's pretty easy. I feel like I think as actors we compartmentalize roles pretty well. And of course, there's the old adage about if you can't remember a line, say a line from another show. In other words, fill the space, right?
Well, I won't ask if you ever done that, but one of the things I admired by Karen, her one-person show, is that one of the nice things, I don't know if Daniel or Madison have ever done a one-person show. One of the nice things is if you blow a line, nobody knows it except the director, so that's the advantage. But that must be tough. Daniel, have you ever been in a one-person show?
I have not, no.
Okay, Madison?
No.
Okay, can you imagine that? That must really be tough, though. But let me ask you, all three of you, because I'm curious about this, what Michael alluded to, in terms of dialogue, and this has a good amount of dialogue, especially for the two clowns, a lot of dialogue. Do you have a tip or suggestion, Madison, for people wanting to memorize dialogue? How do you do it?
Well, there's a lot of methods people use. Some people write down the lines. I've found that doesn't help me as much. What I do is I take it scene by scene. I memorize it 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, start from the beginning. And I keep kind of just learning smidges and then going to the beginning, learning, making sure I understand them, going back. And I kind of just do that back and forth. It's not a method that works for everyone, but I found it's worked for me.
Have you ever had like a really big part to have to memorize?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, I think Sarah from Southern Appalachian Christmas, she's
Okay.
on stage most of the time. So that role, Annie and Annie, of course, she's on stage most of the time. So I've had a few decent big roles, and I've used the same method for each time.
And Daniel, how about you in terms of getting dialogue down? How do you do it?
It's very similar to what Madison was saying, starting with a little bit, working down, going back, and making sure you've got it memorized. But really the key for me is just repetition. If you just repeating it, it'll get stuck in there. It's like listening to a song. If you listen to a song so many times over and over, it'll just pop into your head and it'll stay there. So yeah, just repetition.
I'm trying to think. I've seen Madison in musicals. Have you done any musicals?
I have. It's been a very long time since I've done a musical. I think 2017 was the last time I did an actual musical. There was I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change.
Oh, one of my favorite. I
Thank
just
you.
love that show. Wait, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, that was the title.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just a great show. I'm sorry I missed you in it. Where was that?
Oh, that was down in Charlotte. That was at the Davidson Community
Okay.
Theater. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Have you ever seen that, Madison or Mike?
No,
I
I've
have
heard of
not.
Oh, and my favorite, one of the great songs of all time, and you probably, I don't know if you sang it, was the one at the movies. Were you in that?
Tearjerker? Yeah,
Yeah.
I did sing that one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That was one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. Do you know this song, Mike or Madison? Just
I'm
Oh,
somewhat familiar with it.
but you got to see it, Daniel. I want to ask you to sing it, but describe it if you would.
Yeah, it's this I don't know if I could sing it if I wanted to right now. I can't remember the words,
Right.
but it's this guy who goes on this date um with somebody to go see a like chick flick, if you will.
Yeah.
And he's all opposed to it. He's like, I'm just doing this for her, just watching this. And then halfway through, he gets so invested in the movie that by the end of it, he's bawling his eyes out just about what happened in the movie, and his date is just like, oh, all right.
And
It's
he only
really
wanted,
funny.
right, and he only wanted to see an action flick, as
Yeah,
Sylvester Stallone or something. But it's one of the great.
yeah.
I just love the song. I could just see you be perfect in that song. But
It
that's
was a
just.
lot of fun.
But the show is just a great show. I just love it. And Mike, I want to ask you this in terms of memorizing lines. I'll ask you, and I'll ask you a spin on the question. But how do you memorize lines, Mike?
I think my first method a long time ago was more like Daniel and Madison saying. I would like memorize a certain amount of lines and I would add some more, add some more. I think I do it more now, like I have to know the context of the scene. So if I know the goal my character is getting to, I find that to be more I don't know, useful now, but probably a combination of those as well. And I used to do this weird method where I would be like, so you would, you highlight your lines as a fairly time honored tradition. And I would be like, okay, I would know that I have a line here, two that are not mine, one that's mine, three that aren't. And then I found that it was kind of a ridiculous method because I felt like you were acting in a vacuum, which is, you're waiting on your line and you're not responding to the other actor. So I stopped doing that a long time ago.
How about the
But
technique? Yeah.
and kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, more just to finish out on that, Blaine. Sorry, Daniel, like Daniel said, and I think Madison alluded to it as well. It's really more it's repetition, just over and over.
How about using your phone? There are now a lot of apps that help with this.
Yeah,
Do any?
I was gonna add to that. Karen is
Oh,
fancy with the technology. She uses all these like recording devices and stuff, and I just, to me, it's very old school. Just over and over, kind of knowing like where I got to get to in the scene, what my through line is, and all that stuff. And for some weird reason, that seems to work better for me.
Daniel or Madison, do you use any of the apps?
No, but I want to. I haven't heard of I haven't heard of this.
But yeah, everybody uses it. So you can just listen to it on your phone and you
Yeah.
hear it, and then you're rehearsing or listening to
I've
the.
So
Karen
you
can show you.
you
I've
record
looked into it a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that just like I just prefer with the book looking over.
What about Mike? And your answer once was kind of interesting to me about reading lines with somebody. And let me ask you your reaction. And if I remember correctly, your response was kind of interesting. Do you read lines with somebody? Do you read them with Karen, for example?
I'm laughing because we first
Right.
started dating and we were first married, we would run scenes together. Now we don't do it at all. Our methods are so different, or she'll try to direct me and I'll try to direct. I'm just like, but we're fine. We're so used to each other. Once we get on stage, we just bring those two things together. But yeah, we don't really run lines anymore. It's pretty funny, actually.
Madison, how about you? You ever run lines with anybody?
I didn't start until last month. I did ask my mom, since I was, we're all together for the holidays. I did ask her to help me run lines.
Yeah,
Had the same problem. She would direct me. And I didn't mind. I
like,
mean,
Mom, Kathy
So,
Garris shout out right there.
okay.
Kathy
And
Garris is awesome. I love
and
you, Mom.
okay.
KathyGarris.com.
And Daniel, have you ever run lines with somebody?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty important step in my process. Once I feel like I have gotten the lines memorized by myself from just repetition, I double check by running lines with someone else, making sure. And then once I do that, I move on to making sure I can do my lines while doing an action, like if I'm cooking dinner or cleaning the house, whatever, making sure it's there. Yeah.
There's in a recent show you were in, I just loved your performance in it. The help me with the name of it, the Frankenstein.
Oh, the Frankenstein rubrics. Yes.
But what I loved about you is the first time, the whole first half of the show, I thought you were great. You didn't have any lines. So you didn't blow any lines. But how was that being silent for half of it? Then all of a sudden you start talking.
Earlier on, earlier on in my career, I would have been like, yeah, it was all right, but now I appreciate it more. There's something to be said about silence is golden, and you can really convey a lot through a character through not saying anything at all. And so being able to have basically the first half of that show where I had no speaking lines, just grunts and movement, it was it was very eye-opening and allowed me to just be more in the moment and to process everything that was happening and to have like authentic reactions in the moment.
Because I was watching you in that, and you were really good in that, I thought, but especially, no offense to the second half, but the first half, it was really, I thought you were going to be silent the whole show.
Well, it was kind of two characters, two
Right.
different characters if you look at it. The first half was really kind of the traditional Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster. And the second half was more like an AI character, somebody who knows everything, but doesn't know how they know everything.
Okay, but it's just you really hit it, and it was a crazy kind of play. But I said to see the two of you,
Crazy.
The first half, and then the second half, Madison, he wouldn't shut up. He became this very vocal kind of guy. That was great. A couple of final questions for all three of you. I'll start off with, in terms of the stuff you've done already. Do you have a favorite role, Mike, you've ever had?
Oh gosh, I've been really blessed. Long John Silver, Long John Silver for Treasure Island was fun. Atticus Finch with To Kill a Mockingbird, Fagin with Oliver. I would say all of those are up there. Porthos and the Three Musketeers was a lot of fun because there's a lot of fight choreography, and you want to be Porthos, of course, whatever. Yeah, those are probably in my top 5.
One of the things I always admired about seeing you, Mike, was the fact that you had this diversity of roles you've had. And for a while, you were just, all of a sudden, you were a priest for a bunch of things. You were a priest, sort of got stuck in that for a while.
Priest and president, I think.
But that was kind of cool. Yeah, like I said, you were a priest. And then how was it to be a president?
Oh, yeah, playing presidents is really fun. Like, I played Truman and what was the other? McKinley. And that was really fun. So you got to do research, and I liked learning their mannerisms and their vocal tonalities and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really, really cool. The priests are fun too, but yeah. And then when I was younger, it was always military roles.
Okay.
Especially for film. Like, that's my type. So the two film actors below me will know. Well, I mean, I'm a little bit of a film actor too, but in film, it's really more about type. In theater, you get a little bit broader range with characters.
Madison, same question of you. Do you have a favorite role you've ever had?
For theater,
Yeah.
I would have to say Louisa from the Fantastics. That role came to me at a very just perfect time. I was the right age. So I think she was 16 and I was about 17, 18. And that it was just one of those roles that it was a dream role, and it just came at the right time. And I think a very close second place would be Anybody's from West Side Story, because that's a character that's so unlike me. And it was really fun to embody that character.
And it must be fun, like I said, for you or others, when you have to step out of, like you said, not your usual self, but to be somebody different. Must be fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. Now that I remember it, I did do a New York accent for that show.
Oh.
So now that I'm remembering, but yeah, because she presents herself more as a man, or boy, considering they're all teenagers in that show, but just to really physically put myself into that character was it was a pleasure to do.
And it's too bad I didn't know you at the time, because I could have helped you with the New York accent.
I
New
know,
York and Long Island. That's even a specialty, Mike. Or if you ever need a New Yorker, give me a call.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
we'll do it. We'll do it. Hey, forget about it. That's terrible.
And Daniel, do you have a favorite role?
Yeah. Just like everybody else, I've got a few to name 2. My favorite stage role that I've had was Jeff in Lobby Hero. I did that at 35 Below a couple years ago. That was really fun. And then also I really enjoyed my character Jax in Love Struck, which was a short film I did. I was just this I worked at a video store, kind of like Orbit over on Haywood, and it's like a horror comedy rom-com, I guess you could say. Yeah, horror rom-com. And that was a lot of fun. I did that last year.
Okay. And I have to give it a shout out. One of the most recent shows you were in was at Different Strokes. And I thought that was a really interesting play.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was also that, that's also one of my top roles. Colin,
Yeah.
that show, Blood at the Root. It was a very, very good show.
Very good show, very powerful, and really so you were so good in that. I thought the whole show was just great. And I'll lead into a final question, and that's to just the opposite. So that you've talked about the stuff you've been in. Mike, do you have a role you'd like to do in the future that you've never done yet?
Matt Edwardson and I were talking about this last night. Something in Les Mis probably would be cool.
Have you ever done Les Mis?
No, I've never done that show. Matt hasn't either. That's how we were talking about it. We were like, how has that happened?
Okay. I could definitely see you in that role,
Yeah, one of those two, like, somewhat older I can't remember their names.
Javert.
Yeah, well, that would be one of them. What's the other guy? Anyway.
Valjean.
Yeah.
I could see you in both. Wow.
It's some French sounding name. I'm not pretty sure.
Jean Valjean.
So yeah, I'd love to see you and Mike in that. That'd be some role. But anything else come to mind?
Oh, I'll think of a bite.
How about playing opposite Karen? Do you enjoy doing that?
Never done that. No,
no, never done that. No, do you enjoy being in a show together?
Yeah, we do actually. So we pick at each other a little bit, but we really enjoy that actually.
Yeah, and you're just the one that saw it. Was kind of fun to see the two of you.
Yeah, Southern Nashville and with Madison, and it was fun because it was kind of like family, and it was good because our characters were family for most of us were, and we just got off a Hunchback a few months ago, and that was pretty emotional. So I think a lot of us use those emotional ties to reconnect, and it was a lot of fun. Turned out to be a good show. We were a little worried about it at first, honestly, but it turned out to be good.
Madison, a favorite role you've had, or a role you'd like to have?
Oh goodness. Well, Christine in Phantom of the Opera. Not sure how realistic that's going to be since it's not going to be on Broadway very, very long. Hopefully, community theaters will finally get the rights to that show.
Right, yeah.
And then Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Those are my top two.
Okay. Daniel, anything you'd like to do in the future?
Yes. I would very much like to. I don't know if I can say the title on this. Stupid Effing Bird. I would love to do that show and play the role of Khan. Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows, hands down.
I saw the one that. Oh, sorry, Daniel. I saw the one that Dwight Childs directed. It.
Oh, that's
fantastic.
Right.
Fantastic.
It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to look forward to. And as we wind down, I'll ask, in terms of moving forward, Madison, anything you'd share that you're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks, months, years?
Oh,
retirement.
Retirement plans. All right. I have a new audiobook coming out. I will be playing the main character Sophie in A Broken Hallelujah by Judith Fergodson. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's a full cast audiobook.
Oh, very nice.
I've done a few full cast audiobooks. So that's the next one. And all my next projects are all on my website listed under news.
Well, I'll ask you that, but when you do a full scale audiobook, is everybody together or you just do it separately?
Oh, no. We all record separately. So I have a home studio that I record all my voiceover in. It's very rare that I have to go outside of my own studio to record.
Madison, if folks want to keep track of you, stuff you're doing, or you mentioned some of the books you have, what's the best bet to find out about you?
It's madisongarris.com, plain and simple. And also you can follow me on Instagram on Garris_Madison.
Okay, so it's Madison Garris, and it's Garris?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you want to find out about Madison's upcoming projects, check that out. Daniel, the same thing too. If folks want to find out what you're doing, what's the best bet?
Well, if they want to find out what I'm doing, just follow me on Instagram. It's Daniel Henry 427. I've got a few things in the works. I can't really talk about it other than that. Other than this show, 39 Steps.
You'll have to kill us if you tell us.
Well, I'm really,
Yes.
no, but I'm really glad, Daniel, I'm really glad you clarified that, because That's to differentiate Daniel Henry 437 between Daniel Henry 437. 427. But I'm
Yes.
glad you differentiated to make sure we don't confuse you with 428 and 426.
Oh, right, yeah.
You don't want to mess it up.
Well,
And
that's my birthday, and Daniel Henry was already taken. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
The nerve.
April 26th. Okay, noted.
Okay, and Mike, same thing too. Anything upcoming you can share?
So after the 39 Steps, by the way, running January 20th to the 29th, is a murder mystery dinner theater with Jimmy Ferrero, his company that I've done. Oh gosh, I guess this is like the ninth show with him. Happy Death Day to Me, I think is what it's called. After that, I'm not real sure. It's actually kind of open. So, oh wait, I have a callback for a show at Henderson Theater, Rock of Ages.
Oh,
So
Hey.
never done anything there, so.
Oh, that'd be fun. And Mike, same thing too. If folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best bet?
MadisonGarris.com or Daniel Henry 426.
But aside from that, how else do they get in touch with you?
No, on Facebook I have an actor page. You can just look for Mike Cal. I've got the regular page and then an actor page, like the professional page, and then I do have a website, but I haven't updated in like 5 years, so I wouldn't even bother with it.
Okay.
Instagram, I'm kind of there, but I don't really do too much on it.
Michael, I ask you just to recap. So in terms of the upcoming show, again, the dates and how to find out about it and where is it?
So it'll open January 20th and close on the 29th. It's just 6 performances, everyone. So Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays during that span. Black Mountain Center for the Arts, BMCA, and their website is blackmountainarts.org.
Okay.
Black Mountain
And a fun little, so a small theater, so get tickets early again, but it's a fun little theater and great.
Yeah.
If you want to have a nice day, go up there and grab dinner in Black Mountain. 100 places in Black Mountain to grab dinner, so you're in for a treat. And this show I just really look forward to because with the 3 of you and Tate and the fact that it's just a fun play to see, I think people are in for a treat. And so on that, I'd like to thank the 3 of you for being my guests on this special Blaine's World podcast. Also thank my producer, Cappy Seti, and I'll hope to see you in person, all 3 of you, in the near future. And thanks for being my guest. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Blaine.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll just stay with me a second if I can just sign off here somehow. I'm having trouble finding my sign off button, but I will sign this off somehow.
Just like live theater.
Well, no, and that's the problem. One of the advantages, I love doing stuff on this way, because I can anybody, anytime, anywhere, but I don't have a producer, so I got to do this myself. So I'll just end this and won't say goodbye to you, but thanks, guys. Speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Blaine.
Okay, be well.
Bye, Madison. Bye, Daniel. See you at rehearsal.
Yep.
Bye.